I don't think rich means what most of us grew up thinking it means. It isn't 10 fancy cars, it isn't a huge house, and honestly, it was never really about stuff for me. The way I think about it is much simpler. Rich is the day I can say I don't actually need to work anymore. Not because I don't want to work, I actually love building things, but because the money coming in from investments, property, or whatever I have built is enough to cover the life going out. That's freedom. And the interesting thing is that the number you need for that can be a lot smaller than people think. Someone with a few hundred thousands who live fairly modestly can have more freedom than someone with millions who spend like they have millions. So for me, it was never really about how big the pile gets. It's about the gap between what your money can produce without you working and what you actually need to live. And once you think about rich that way, as freedom rather than stuff, some of the habits that keep us away from it become a lot easier to see. I want to talk about three of them. One of these caught me for years, and the other two are things I think are especially easy to fall into when you start earning more money. And I'm not saying any of this to make you feel bad about how you spend. I've done all three, that's actually the point. I grew up with very little, I've been teaching myself about money and investing for around 12 years, and I'm still working towards that freedom. I'm not sitting here on the other side of it telling you how I made it. Most of what I know came from getting things wrong first, and this first one is probably the best example. Habit 1. Buying the easy dopamine. When I first started making real money, I started spending quite a lot of it in fast food and delivery. And I get why. You open an app, you choose something, and 20 minutes later it's at your door. It's incredibly easy. The problem is that it never feels like a big expense. It's 20 here, 30 there, a few times a week, and because none of those purchases feels particularly important, it's very easy to do it for years without really noticing what it's adding up to. Then I actually looked at the number and that hurt, because that wasn't just money I'd spent on food. That was money I could have been investing or putting into something I was building or just keeping for the future. And that's when I realized what the real cost was. It wasn't the meal, it was the direction that money was going. I was taking money that could have been building my freedom and using it for something that made the next 20 minutes a little easier. And there was another cost too. I put on weight, I felt worse, and I had less energy for the things I actually cared about. Because when you get a reward really easily, it's very easy to keep choosing the easy thing. And I tried to stop. I deleted the app more times than I can remember. Then I'd reinstalled it, delete it again, and somehow it would be back on my phone a few days later. What finally changed wasn't suddenly become more disciplined. It was starting to think about where the decision was taking me rather than just how I felt in that moment. Having kids helped too, because they copy what they see. But the biggest change was simply seeing the spending for what it was. It was a small leak in the exact thing I was trying to build, and it took me 2 or 3 years to properly break that habit. I think that's worth saying because we sometimes expect these things to change in a weekend, and they don't. Habit 2. Buying the childhood we didn't have. The second one is a little more personal, and I think it can be particularly difficult if you grow up without much, because when you finally start earning money, there is a very natural feeling of, okay, now I can finally have all the things I didn't have growing up. I remember not having a PlayStation with loads of games when I was a kid, so when you have your own money, it's very easy to think, great, I will buy the PlayStation and 10 games. And there is nothing wrong with that, but then you have to ask yourself a slightly uncomfortable question. Are you actually going to play 10 games? If you have a family, a job, and other things you are trying to build and you are spending 3 or 4 hours every night gaming, that's time too. And time is part of the freedom we are trying to buy. So I'm not saying don't enjoy your money, I'm saying enjoy it on purpose. Play a couple of nights, build something on another night, buy one game, finish it, then get the next one. You might actually enjoy it more that way. Because sometimes we are not really buying the thing. We are buying something that represents what we didn't have. I wanted a car when I was 18, partially because my family never had one. There is nothing wrong with wanting a car, but it's useful to notice when a purchase is really about the thing itself and when it's about trying to give your younger self something they didn't get. Once you notice that, you get to make the decision again, and sometimes you will still buy it. That's completely fine. The difference is that now you are choosing it. And when you do make the wrong decision, I think the best thing you can say is simply, that was my mistake. Not, it wasn't my fault, not everyone else does it. Just, I made that decision and I can make a better one next time, because that's the version that actually teaches you something. Habit 3. Copying everyone around you. If I had to choose one habit that I think can quietly keep people stuck for years, it's this one. Trying to keep up with everyone around us. A friend buys a bigger house, great for them. Another friend gets a new car, then another, and slowly, without really deciding to, we start feeling like we should do the same. So, we take on a monthly payment for a car that honestly does almost exactly what the old one did. And now there is another few hundred leaving our account every month for years. The excitement might last a few weeks, the payment doesn't. And social media makes this even harder. We see someone on a beautiful holiday and suddenly we want that holiday too. We see the house, the clothes, the car, the restaurant, and because we can put almost anything on a credit card, we can make ourselves look like we are living that life before we can actually afford it. That's the trap. There is a really important distinction here. Looking wealthy and being financially free are not the same thing. You can't actually tell someone's financial position from the things they own. Someone can have a very expensive car and very little financial freedom. Someone else can drive an old car and be completely fine financially. So instead of asking, what does everyone else have? I think the better question is, what am I actually trying to build? Because that extra few $100s a month doesn't have to disappear into a car payment. It could go into investments, it could fund a small business, it could buy the equipment for a YouTube channel, it could pay for the first version of an idea you have had for years. The problem isn't spending money, it's spending money because we feel like we are supposed to. And it's completely okay not to have the best car or the biggest house or the nicest version of everything. It just depends on what you are trying to achieve. And that's really what all of this comes back to for me. I don't want to never spend money, I want to be able to spend it without constantly trading away my future for my present. My goal is to get to the point where I don't have to work. Not because I hate working, I actually love building things. I just want to be able to choose what I build, when I work, and how much time I get to spend with my family. So right now I'm deliberately keeping my lifestyle flat. I'm not trying to make my life worse, I'm trying to give my future self more options. And I think all three of these habits really come down to the same question. Is this helping me build the life I actually want, or am I just buying the life I'm seeing around me? So let's recap. The three habits. The easy dopamine that quietly redirects money away from our future. For me, that was food delivery. Buying the childhood we didn't have instead of thinking about the future we actually want, and copying the people around us instead of deciding for ourselves what enough looks like. And if you want to do one thing this week, make it really simple. Look at one purchase or one monthly payment you have made mostly because someone around you had it. Don't cancel it, don't feel guilty about it, just notice it. Ask yourself, if nobody else had this, would I still want it? And if the answer is yes, great, keep it. If the answer is no, you have just found a little bit of money that might be better used somewhere else. And if you want to see what redirecting even a small monthly amount could become over 10, 20 or 30 years, I've got a compound calculator on my website at joaofreire.finance. As I said before, for me food delivery was the hardest one to remove. But underneath that, I think there was also a bit of that second habit, wanting the things I didn't have when I was younger. And I don't think that's something to feel ashamed of. I just think it's useful to notice, so I'm curious, which one do you recognize in yourself? The easy dopamine, buying things you didn't have while growing up, or trying to keep up with the people around you? Tell me in the comments. I have a feeling that the last one catches almost all of us at some point.